Hey everyone, this is part, not all of the press conference that was held earlier today. The entire press conference is an hour long, but I think it's more notable to point out who was leading the Oakland contingent, if you will, and their response in words. Here we go. First person out walking from left to right in one moment. Widen this out a bit. That's better. Will be California Assemblyman Rob Bonta in one moment. She is the signer, the lady that came into the picture on the right. And here comes Rob, in one moment. About 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. There. And joining him in another split second. You hear the volume coming up. It's California Governor Gavin Newsom. We'll step in the picture.
Hey guys.
There.
All right.
There with Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, who is not looking Gavin's way. She looks upset.
Is everyone ready? Good afternoon. Welcome to Oakland. At 6 a.m. this morning, the federal government announced its decision to conduct the disembarkation operation for the Grand Princess at the Port of Oakland. As the mayor of Oakland, I have 3 priorities right now. First and foremost is to ensure the safety and health of my community. And that starts with our port workers, as well as the residents who live closest to the Port of Oakland. Second, I want to ensure that our public and our community keeps constantly informed with detailed information about this operation, as well as about the COVID-19 virus in general. We recognize that this is a time that we must be guided by facts and not fears, and our public deserves to know exactly what is going on. And third and finally, it is our duty to help these people. The friends and families aboard this ship, the passengers who are sitting in fear and uncertainty, we as local government are pleased to step forward to assist our state and federal partners in this humanitarian effort. I also have been clear with our state and federal I've been clear with our state and federal partners about the context of the Oakland community. This is a community that has suffered decades of environmental racism and injustice. And that is why it is so important that we assure this community with the full facts about how their safety and health will be protected. I have received some very strong assurances that this operation will employ the best isolation practices known, that the operation will be conducted in a manner that minimizes the time for the Grand Princess to be at the Port of Oakland, and that once the disembarkation operation is complete, that the ship will depart Oakland, that no one will be quarantined in Oakland or released to our community. We want to appreciate the partnership and the good values of our state and federal partners in this moment. And I really want to extend my gratitude to Danny Wan, the director of the Port of Oakland, who is here with us, all the port workers, the City of Oakland workers that have just come together over this weekend to help and assist in this humanitarian operation. It is the right thing to do. We have to not let our fears dictate or impede our humanity. So with that, it is my pleasure to welcome the great governor of the state of California, Gavin Newsom.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your leadership. I want to underscore that, and I will in the course of my remarks. Let me contextualize this moment, and we will have ample opportunity to answer all your questions related to the Grand Princess and logistical operation that is currently underway. But I want to just update you on the latest numbers of positive tests in the state of California, number of people we're monitoring, and how we're doing with our testing regime. Currently, 114 people have tested positive in the state of California. We have identified one individual, as you know, in Placer County, that is deceased related to the virus. As you know, he was on this same cruise ship in the previous cruise that went from San Francisco down to Mexico on February 11th to the 21st. We are monitoring some 1,540 individual Californians that were on that original cruise. Currently, we have identified 12 individuals on that cruise that now have identified as positive for COVID-19. Again, that number is fluid. That's the number we have from this morning. Of course, we'll be updating you on a daily basis. Broadly, the state of California has over 10,000, in fact, 10,257 individuals that we are monitoring in 49 health jurisdictions throughout the state that have come in independently of our repatriation flights and independently of the cruises through commercial airlines. So I want to give you the magnitude of the people we're monitoring and the incredible effort that is underway at all levels of government in a state, for those not familiar, that has 58 counties and some 480 plus or minus cities. And so this has taken all of us to work together in a deeply collaborative way. And I'm very grateful for all of our partners, particularly in the health care sector, for their stewardship. And now let's go back to the issue at hand. The Grand Princess currently is some 10 to 12 miles offshore. And I say 10 to 12 because we're moving it back within that footprint. Roughly 2.5 hours away when they have the green light to come in to the Oakland port. We are not prepared to tell you exactly when. And for those passengers that may be watching this, we are not able to tell you exactly when the cruise ship will come in to the port, as we are still working out the enormity of complexity of making sure we prepare the site and, moreover, prepare for quick turnaround and quick boarding of individuals to respective locations, which I will talk about in a moment. We want to make sure that all of that is locked in before the ship comes to port, which I think would just create more anxiety for the passengers and, moreover, for the general public. The site was picked. Oakland was picked for a number of reasons. We assessed many different sites throughout the state of California. Active military bases, unfortunately, are not positioned, particularly with a foreign flag cruise ship, as the appropriate site. We looked for mothball old sites, including Alameda. We had originally looked at Alameda as a preferable site, the old naval station there. Unfortunately, some of the silting issues, some of the drafting issues created some concerns, and that site was knocked off the list. Some have suggested, because it's based in San Francisco, this cruise ship, that San Francisco and the port should assume this repatriation effort. That was assessed. The logistics of that site along the Embarcadero, the proximity to residences, the disruption that would have ensued was such that we determined that was not the appropriate site. Other sites across the state of California were considered in southern part of the state. And again, by multitudes of assessments, we felt better and more.
Okay, so why did Libby make that face just then? Hold on a second. Look at this. that back right about there. Okay? Watch your face.
To respective locations, which I will talk about in a moment. We want to make sure that all of that is locked in before the ship comes to port, which I think would just create more anxiety for the passengers and moreover for the general public. The site was picked. Oakland was picked for a number of reasons. We assessed many different sites throughout the state of California. Active military bases, unfortunately, are not positioned, particularly with a foreign flag cruise ship, as the appropriate site. We looked for mothball old sites, including Alameda. We had originally looked at Alameda as a preferable site, the old naval station there. Unfortunately, some of the silting issues, some of the drafting issues created some concerns, and that site was knocked off the list. Some have suggested, because it's based in San Francisco, this cruise ship, that San Francisco and the port should assume this repatriation
Watch your
effort.
face.
That was assessed. The logistics of that site along the Embarcadero, the proximity to residences, the disruption that would have ensued was such that we determined that was not the appropriate site. Other sites across the state of California
like that.
were considered in the southern part of the state. And again,
And it wasn't a wink. It was more like, oh, really? It was like, what does she mean? I wonder.
by multitudes of assessments, we felt better and more appropriate to have it here in Northern California for reasons I will lay out in just a brief moment. This site allows us a number of advantages. Number one, the ability to secure the site. This site is currently being secured. It's being fenced, and it's being secured by federal personnel. Roughly 10 acres of this site. The site is currently being cleared. We have a number of vehicles on that site, leased vehicles, the ability to contact the individuals that own those vehicles, to look at the existing contracts, to waive the provisions of the contracts, to provide ample opportunity to move those vehicles, presented a logistics opportunity, and we are currently executing that opportunity. The site being cleared is happening as well in real time as it's being secured. But the site offers a number of benefits. Number one, proximity to the Oakland airport, which will provide us the ability to allow foreign passengers on this crew to be repatriated in their home countries, at least in specific terms, to Canada and other chartered flights that are currently logistically being prepared. There will be no contact with the general population and terminals at the Oakland airport. This will all be separate, and all of these individuals are being processed in partnership with the State Department and others for those chartered flights. So that was one benefit of this Oakland site. Number two, proximity to Travis Air Force Base. As many of you recall, the state of California since, late December, but more formally late January, was the state that has provided the most support for the United States and U.S. citizens that were overseas to repatriate them with direct flights. A number of those direct flights went into Travis, into Miramar in Southern California, and Marsh and also in Southern California, but more broadly defined as parts of Riverside. Those operations were successful. The logistics and the preparation of those sites are such that they are advantageous in terms of our repatriation now of this cruise ship. So the opportunity for us in this region, near Travis, near Solano County, Oakland's uniquely positioned to quickly move those passengers to be quarantined disproportionately at Travis, but a number of them possibly down at Miramar. So let me break this out and try to create some sequencing so that people have some clarity. The ship will come in sometime tomorrow. The expectation is to determine what the best cross-current conditions are, as well as tidal conditions, to create the opportunity to have a window for a ship this size to come into a port where it's typically not being docked. I can bore you with the technical details, but anyone that understands this space, no one better than our bar pilots that need to go on to the ship with the appropriate protective gear that needs to be fitted, and making sure that they have the opportunity to have those windows where they have confidence. Those are windows that are typically just a few hours. So in the morning, make up a time, 3 to 6, and then 2 to 4, whatever they may be. There'll be windows, and you'll hear more about those. I'm making those up, but you get a sense of the windows that will avail themselves tomorrow as it relates to cross currents and tides. So that's why we can't give you a specific time, but we anticipate the ship coming in tomorrow. We are also taking care in the immediate term, not only determining when the ship comes in, but providing the opportunity for triage that we will be conducting in the next few hours to occur before the ship arrives. We have what we call these hasty teams that are going to be making their way onto the ship anywhere around 3 p.m. West Coast time today. They will be triaging the passengers. They'll be getting a better sense through screening, through interviews of the needs of the passengers, and that will allow us better preparation on the port property in anticipation of their arrival tomorrow. I want to remind people that are rightfully concerned about the passengers, as all of us are, that the passengers assumed that they would be back home already. Many of them came with medications for the period of time they thought they would be on board, and those medications are also being provided to the extent they already have been. In some instances, people have already been a beneficiary of medications, but obviously with the new medical personnel going on, those will be secured this evening as well. We will move forward by prioritizing those that are most acute. First tranche of people that will come off the ship in a rapid manner will be those that are symptomatic and those most in need of medical support. Those that are in need of hospitalization, that is a number that needs to be determined, will be sent to appropriate medical facilities in and around the region, and those protocols are well underway for those that we are currently providing care for throughout not only Northern California, but the state of California. Next group of people will be California residents. There are currently 2,421 passengers on this ship, 1,113 crew members in addition to those passengers. Some 962 of those passengers are based on our manifest California residents. They will be prioritized, and those California residents will be secured, boarded onto appropriate vehicles and brought again with priority to Travis Air Force Base to begin a 14-day quarantine. Those non-California residents, as I mentioned a moment ago, those that are foreigners, some 54 countries represented in total. That includes crew and passengers. We will be providing those charter flights for the largest cohort of those passengers as another priority to move them forward. Non-California residents, American citizens, will be transported to other locations, a disproportionate number into Texas, Oakland,